Hello everyone, my name is Michael and welcome back to Sovereign Gaming. As you can see on screen, we are going to be taking a look at the bridge that leads into SimCity, which is the Sims 3 Create a World build that I have been creating right before our very eyes. And the reason why this episode is actually so important and something that I actually did not anticipate doing is because the entrance into SimCity is actually very important from a vantage point of view. There are when I was designing the city and the layout of the downtown core and the downtown island at this point, one thing that I really had kept in mind is just kind of the view of the city skyline and how that's going to look from all angles of the SimCity regional world here. So the drive into the city off of the iconic suspension bridge at this point is something that I felt was very important, and it was something that we really needed to work on before moving on to other parts of the city, namely the suburb neighborhood. So that's really the plan for today, is just really putting in the detailing work surrounding the actual entrance into the city and just how that's going to look and feel, and to really make it an experience that players will have when they finally do get a chance to download my world and all of that. Speaking of which, at this point in time, I haven't decided where I'm going to be putting it up for download, but as soon as I do, the link to the download will be in the description box, and I'll release a whole trailer and all of that for it as well. So there's that to look forward to as I continue to build out the SimCity regional world here. So I start off by placing some of these grasses just at the base of the hill that the bridge roadway sits on top of. And these greener grasses are perfectly fine. They're okay, but I actually ended up switching over to some of these swamp brushes that they looked fine from one angle, but from another angle they looked terrible, and I didn't really discover that until a couple of episodes out. So those swamp brushes are going to be staying for the remainder of the episode, unfortunately. But they do get deleted when they do get deleted later on, because I had a look at them from a different angle, and then it's just a bunch of floating swamp rushes, really. And the problem with deleting plants and all of that is that the Create a World tool automatically clusters them together. I think I've explained this before, but when it clusters them together, you have to uncluster them, and then they go into that object list as just like game object, and then some sort of a random number, or a seemingly random number from my perspective. And that's where it can be a pain in the butt, because sometimes I use that object list, the metadata or the property browser list, I forget what it's called, but it's on screen, so it's there. But I use that list to actually pinpoint certain objects and to delete them if I am having trouble trying to select an object. You'll see that a couple of times in this episode, especially because when I do get to doing some of the streetlight work surrounding the bridge and the roads that lead up to the bridge, it was actually quite hard to select the streetlights on the ramps up to the bridge, since I had bordered it with that specific retaining wall that I used from the first episode. So yeah, unfortunately, the swamp brushes, the swamp brush plants will stay. They will be floating, but they will be deleted in the near future. To be quite honest, I haven't actually gone back into the game to delete them, so I might just try to hide them with the green grasses underneath. I'm gonna see if that works. If it doesn't, they're going to be deleted, because those floating swamp brushes are just not the vibe I was going for. I just wanted it to be a little more grassy, a little more unkept on the hill, where it would make sense. Overall, when it comes to game objects, I have to be quite honest, they are kind of difficult to work with in the Create a World tool. Like, you can get things to look nice, and people have gotten things to look nice, but especially when you're working with a slope, that's when things get very messy. And that's where things start to just kind of look uneven, and it's very hard to work with at that point. So I really had to be careful with the guardrails that I placed on the ramp leading up to the bridge, because it really needed guardrails, first of all. Secondly, the ramp is obviously on a slope, hence why it's called a ramp. So I just really had to be careful with how that was looking, and when I tried to angle it down to get it as one seamless slope, it just wasn't really reading properly. So it is staggered, and it is staggered on purpose, because and that purpose really being that that I just didn't have the skills or the patience to really make it a smooth guardrail leading up to the bridge. So that's why it is the way it is. The other side of the road, the other side of the bridge, I do end up curving the road to meet the ground level in some sort of a half circle fashion. So when I get to doing the guardrails for that, I am going to make sure that I'm going to make sure that I have a stiff drink nearby. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not looking forward to doing the detailing work on the other side of the bridge, because I think it'll be even more painful to do as opposed to this straight ramp down. But yeah, I will literally cross that bridge when I get there in the game. And yeah, I've explained it before. I'm not so much a detail-oriented individual. I'm the big picture person that people need and that people need in their lives, and I'm just living in a detail-oriented world. So don't worry, the details are coming. I'm just procrastinating on them and putting them off for after the functions of the world are functioning the way that I need to see them function as. A little bit of a run-on sentence there, so I do apologize, but yeah, I do actually like how the guardrails turn out on this side of the bridge, and I'm going to keep them the way that they are. I like that staggered look, and it helps to really punctuate that you are descending into the city. Speaking of which, that descent into the Sim City, like the descent onto the platform that leads to the east and west ramps, is a very important view corridor in my eyes. I designed the city specifically so that the downtown and midtown neighborhoods and also the government campus would have all of the taller buildings sort of in the background, whereas in the foreground, when you get to uptown, you have shorter mid-rise buildings, so you get that build up. And as you're approaching the city and like kind of descending from the bridge into the ground level, you really will I'm anticipating that you'll really get a sense of scale when it comes to actually approaching the city. Like you'll actually feel like you're in the middle of a pretty large city. So that view corridor was especially important for me to kind of keep in mind and to preserve and all of that. So I was very happy with the way everything turned out, and that's why I kept the vegetation very minimal and very low, and I didn't even place vegetation on the platform where you descend from the bridge to the platform to make way to those east and west ramps. And that was because I didn't want to obstruct the view. I didn't even want bushes there, to be quite honest. And I might actually retroactively detail that a little more depending on how I feel. But yeah, anything that is going to obstruct the view there was just a no-go. I didn't even do billboard signs, and I didn't even want billboard signs for the ramp on the way down, just because there's a view right there. And I think that the city politicians and the citizens of SimCity would actually really fight to preserve that view corridor. And so yeah, that was a really important aspect for me there. And just with the way that the city is going to be laid out in terms of the density and all that, there are more view corridors that are getting preserved along the way, which will really help to make it look grand, in my opinion. Or at least that's what I hope. I still have to build all of the structures and all of that, so that remains to be seen, if I'm going to be quite honest. But I think that I've really set myself up for a really grand entrance into the city with this layout. I honestly love the hydrangea plants in The Sims 3, and I actually like the plants that just take on a similar form and similar shape and similar size with different colors. So I like those plants really, and the reason why I like them is that they take up quite a bit of space, but they're also low lying, and they are also very pretty to look at. So I continued with the blue and the white, which will be the colors that I deem to be the SimCity colors. And the only reasons why are, I guess, these hydrangeas are really the SimCity flowers. That's what that would make it. And the reason why I chose white and blue is just because it would reflect the ocean and the sand and all of that. And even though we do differentiate from the different colors of flowers for different neighborhoods and such as a little bit with Old Town and definitely with the government campus, the similar theme of having them as the same size with similar shapes and all of that is something that is consistent throughout the entire region. Now, what's also interesting here is that we finally make our way across the bridge, where you'll actually see me use a completely different approach for the road layout with that one. And the reason why it was important for me to work on the other side of the bridge at this time is because we are going to start the suburb neighborhood, and I will reveal the name in the next episode when we get to the layout. And yeah, with the suburb layout, I kind of need it to connect to the city. We already know that there are going to be 2 connections within the starter neighborhood, and then there is also going to be another connection to what I'm deeming to be like some sort of a regional highway. More like just like a 2-lane highway. We don't have real highways in this game, so I'm not gonna try and pretend that something exists when it actually doesn't. I'm not going to try and force the game in that kind of sense. So yeah, it's important to actually get those kind of stubs put into the region just so that I know where I need to connect to. And even though like suburbs have cul-de-sacs, which will be something that I will absolutely build upon, build in the layout, even suburbs have cul-de-sacs, like the actual neighborhood itself is not necessarily a cul-de-sac, meaning that you have more than one way out of the neighborhood if you so choose. And in this case, this rural highway is going to be something that is used as multiple entry points into the suburb neighborhood. And I just wanted to stub it in, get a good look and feel of what it's going to actually look and feel like on the other side of the bridge. Just so that I have a sense of how far I want to build with the suburb neighborhoods. So yeah, I'm really excited to finally be building across the bridge. Speaking of which, curved roads are a pain in the butt to actually build. It's not exactly the best. The Create a World tool has certainly showed its age. It's not exactly the best kind of world creation tool that there is out there, especially when it comes to road layouts, so you do have to fidget a little bit around with them. My best advice for building curved roads is to build it in sections, and then you just have to like mess around with it a little bit. I try to get the middle point to connect, not connect, but get as close as to the next connection point, and then I'll adjust the actual curvature of the road from there. So yeah, that's what I try to do. I drag out those middle points first. It's kind of hard to explain, which is really why I'm very happy that we're doing some curved roads today, since you'll actually see it on screen, but you'll see me actually just drag that middle point out and just kind of fiddle around with the actual turning handles, and that seems to work the best for me. Now granted, my curved roads are far from perfect. Even later on in this series, like there are some curved roads where I'm just having to walk away from them, and although I do think I've gotten better as this series has gone by, just with more practice, I have also it's still a very hard tool to kind of use here. So That would be my piece of advice if you are using the Sims 3 Create a World and you are looking to create a world for yourself. Like that, just like curved roads are difficult, and yeah, break it up in sections. That is my best part. Oh, another thing too is that if you have really long sections and you're trying to make a curved road from there, it's going to mess up the rest of your road. So that's why you want to break it up in sections, because it'll treat those segments as one road. I'm ending off this episode just kind of putting in some lots just for scale in the suburb neighborhood here, in the new suburb neighborhood, now that we finally got everything connected to it. And you know, the layout that I ended up just kind of leaving it as definitely doesn't stay. In fact, I changed it up a few times going forward here, so please don't get committed to the layout that you see before. In the next episode, we're finally moving into the suburb neighborhood. We are getting out of the core of the city, and we are going to be working on something completely different within the SimCity region, and that is the suburbs. So maybe it's not that completely different, since it's just going to be single family homes mostly. But anyways, the suburb name will be revealed in the next episode, and I'm very excited for it because it does reference a certain neighborhood, I guess, in The Sims 2. So for those of you that enjoyed The Sims 2, this is very much a nod to that game as well. Personally, I've been a fan of The Sims franchise since The Sims 1. Definitely not a Sims 4 fan, but that is not that kind of video for today. Anyways, we are going to end it off here for the episode, and I just wanted to thank you again for watching. I'm going to leave you off with some tours of the neighborhood as it has been, well, so far as the work I have done on it, as well as some shots of the bridge detailing. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video and would like to help me beat those algorithms, feel free to like and subscribe. Anyways, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.